A dragonfly is a symbol of transformation, of change, and of inner strength. It epitomizes seizing the moment and living for the present. This is a story about a dragonfly seeking inner light and balance through life's challenges and obstacles to gain inspiration, enlightenment, and courage. Tuesday, August 31st, 2021. Sunrise. Sleeping bag zippers begin sliding open to unveil its semi-comatose inhabitants with a faint burst of the butane tank being lit for coffee. Muffled voices are mixed with clanging dishes on a makeshift buffet table. And yet above all the clatter, I can hear the flowing yet tranquil river, the river of no return, also known as the Salmon River. 80 miles of roller coaster rapids, white sandy beaches, rocky riverbeds, and the remote wilderness. This is where my journey began, a journey of growth and resilience. But how did I get here? How did I go completely out of my comfort zone to land here at this exact moment? For that, we must go back in time. 88 miles an hour and 1.21 gigawatts should get us there. The year was 2020. It started out like any other year. New year, new resolutions. My first trip to Hawaii. Sun, surf, and sandy beaches. Sun-kissed skin and henna tattoos. Fruity drinks at every meal, and fireworks. The hotel restaurants and beaches were littered with tourists in face masks. Not something you see when on vacation. Face masks were for medical personnel, not everyday people. It wasn't until I returned home that I discovered why so many people were wearing them. When I returned to the Evergreen State, the news was reporting on something called Coronavirus Disease 2019 or COVID-19. Washington State became the epicenter in the early months of 2020. If you were going anywhere outside your home, face masks were mandatory. Families, friends, and coworkers were separated from one another. At first it was 2 weeks, then 3. By week 6, no one knew when it would end. Words like lockdown, quarantine, mask mandates, working from home, and there's a run on toilet paper became everyday common vocabulary. Fast forward back to 2021. Working from home, sitting at a dingy 30 by 30 card table with a laptop and in virtual meetings all day. And after 15 months inside the confines of my childhood home, I realized I needed a change. Time away from all the chaos and soul-draining dramas in my life. An opportunity to get out of my comfort zone. An opportunity to explore an unfamiliar world. One that would lead me towards a new beginning. I found such an opportunity in the form of a wellness retreat in the wilds of Idaho. A place by the fire. 5 days and 4 nights in rustic Salmon, Idaho. Days spent in a gearboat navigating the whitewater rapids, and nights sleeping on sandy beaches in front of a campfire. It was exactly what I needed, yet it still took me several weeks before I summoned up the courage to message the trip's organizer. When I finally sent a message, there were only 2 spots remaining. Against my introverted judgment, I made the decision to go out of my comfort zone. Little did I know what was really in store for me. After securing my seat on the boat, I feverishly bought everything on the packing list. Who knew one would need quick-drying synthetic underwear? Biodegradable soap, shampoo, and a 2-piece rain suit were the farthest from my mind as the necessary essentials. Everything arranged with post-it notes and a checklist to keep it all in order. I will have order. I had a feeling this will be the last time I had it. Saturday, August 28th, 2021. With supplies packed and a plane ticket in hand, I was ready. 5 days of no cell service. Into the woods on a wellness whitewater rafting adventure. Riding to the airport in a limo for the first time. Purple lights and a minibar. Cocktails at 5:30 a.m.? Why not? Blasting Cyndi Lauper's Girls Just Want to Have Fun felt appropriate. The airport was bustling with dozens of people in masks at 6 a.m. As the airport tram sped hastily to my departing gate, I closed my eyes and imagined where I would be in 7 days. Would I find the answers I was searching for? 7 days seemed like forever when you're hoping to be a completely different person at the end of this 10,080-minute journey. As the plane slowly began to make its way for takeoff, I realized how much I had already accomplished. I did it! I have gone out of my comfort zone. I am taking a trip by myself, spending 5 days with complete strangers. I'm overwhelmed with gratitude mixed with a wee bit of nausea. Boise, Idaho was only an hour plane ride away, and yet anxiety and fear began to creep their way into my overanalyzing brain. I must be cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. Going on a trip all alone? Was I prepared for this? 5 days and 4 nights camping on a river and exploring the wilds of the Salmon River? This would be a true test for me. Sunday, August 29th, 2021. The next morning, reality hit like a Mack truck. Another plane ride to get to Salmon. All aboard on a 7-seater charter plane. Oh, sweet home Alabama, what am I doing? 7 seats? I wasn't prepared for this. Sitting directly behind the co-pilot seat, I was an arm's length away from the yoke. Grab a headset and I'm ready to go. Roger, Roger. What's our vector, Victor? Yet, as the sun began to rise over the horizon, the flight wasn't as excruciating as I had anticipated. My fears and anxieties diminished simply by being in the moment of the majestic dawning of a new day. The plane glided swiftly over the ponderosa pines of the Boise National Forest for 60 minutes before arriving in Salmon. Climbing into an ancient yet classic yellow school bus with a group of strangers seemed reminiscent of high school, except I was in an unfamiliar city headed into the great wide open. I sat watching as the landscape slowly transformed from civilized city structures to nothing but giant towering pine trees, rolling river waters, and fresh canyon air. The last semblance of civilization was a general store that opened in 1916. Last indoor bathroom, last chance to check social media and email, last connection to the outside world. Driving to the put-in at Corn Creek Boat Ramp felt like an eternity. For 2 nail-biting hours, the bus traveled down a one-lane bumpy dirt road surrounded by granite walls on the right and the river of no return several hundred feet below on the left. Just surviving the drive would be a miracle. As the bus inched closer and closer to the boat ramp, civilization was a distant memory. There was no turning back. I was moments away from getting on a whitewater rafting adventure with complete strangers, trusting guides to take me through the wilderness and rapids for 5 days and come out on the other side. When the bus stopped, utter chaos ensued. Dozens of waterproof bags and ammo cans were hauled to the water's edge in a frenzy. Quick instructions on life jacket safety, and like the roadrunner leaving Wile E. Coyote in a cloud of dust, all passengers were herded into the inflatable rafts to set sail into the unknown. As the sun radiated down on the calm, silent river, I closed my eyes and thought, this is where I begin again. This is where I release all my anxieties and fears, where I find perspective. This is where I gain inspiration, enlightenment, and courage. This is me becoming me. The journey to stepping outside of my comfort zone and into a new self. With a late afternoon start, arriving at the first campsite would be the first unknown. A little over a mile into the river, I experienced my first taste of the chilling river waters at Killam, a Class 3 rapid. One of 15 I would experience before mile 80. My memory of rafting down the Deschutes River in Oregon as a kid was nothing like this. 17 miles and 8 rapids completed before landing at motor camp just as night began to fall. Another mad rush to get all the gear off the boats. Tents, chairs, dry bags, ammo cans, and food. As the sun dipped behind the ponderosa pines, the temperature dropped. Staying warm at night would be a challenge. At the end of the day, surrounded by strangers and a blazing fire, I was in awe of how much I had accomplished in just a few short hours. The flowing waters of the river, chirping crickets, and the crackling of the fire's last embers serenaded me as I fell into the night slumber. Tomorrow would be another test of my anxieties and resilience. Monday, August 30th, 2021. My first night was sleepless and cold. Nature's boy bands were in a four-wing battle all night long. A chilling breeze traveled from the river through my tent into my sleeping bag, covering me with a blanket of Arctic temperatures. It had me up before everyone where I sat in utter darkness. The sky was littered with shooting stars and bats zooming in and out of the surrounding forest. With the tranquil waves of the distant river, I quietly sat in a camp chair and allowed my thoughts to absorb the tranquil surroundings. What would I experience today that would fuel my growth and understanding? With anxiety and uncertainty still knocking on the door, I knew today would be the day to let go and allow all things to unfold naturally. As the sun began to peek its rays over the tops of the ponderosa pines, the butane tank for coffee was lit, followed by the group's first morning circle. There was chanting and breathing. Movement was created through soft-flowing yoga poses, awakening spirits for the enriching day ahead. It was an innovative experience. Stress began to fade while vulnerability began to emerge from within my soul. With breakfast served, our first morning circle ended. Anticipating the day's wet and wild water park adventure, I donned my bright pink rain suit and green keen sandals. I was prepared, or so I thought. Gear was loaded onto the boats and the first full day on the river commenced. Despite the frigid river temperatures and the waves crashing into my face, I was all smiles. I began to feel my anxiety and fears wash away with every wave. The first full day on the river was packed with even more Class 3 rapids. Black Creek, Hancock, and Dillinger Rapids, the latter named for the first prospector to find gold on Oregon's Rogue River. A quick respite at Arctic Creek to refill on some freezing but pure mountain water, as well as a relaxing dip at the hot tub hot springs made the day purposeful. 33 miles into the 80-mile trek ended the day at Allison Ranch. Never in my wildest imagination did I think I would make it this far. As I sat yet by another roaring fire that night, my mind was filled with thoughts of resilience, strength, and courage. Within 2 days and 33 miles, I was rejuvenated. I could feel the healing powers of the vast open wilderness and embrace the internet-free atmosphere. As I laid down again to sleep, wrapped in semi-warm layers, a feeling of complete euphoria for the next day's adventures began to intoxicate me. Candy is dandy, but liquor is quicker, or so they say. Ironically, I didn't touch a single drop the entire trip. Tuesday, August 31st, 2021. Day 3 brought yet another early morning alone with the sounds of the rippling river and a few stars still glistening in the sky. I wondered, how would I change today? What new experience would guide me towards my journey of change? Feelings of uncertainty and ambiguity still riddled my mind, yet clarity and gratitude were beginning to have more of a presence than I had expected. Today would be the mother of all days, consisting of the most difficult and technical rapids. Multiple, arduous, and soul-drenching rapids to maneuver through just in the first few miles of the day. Shrouded in my bright pink rain gear and green keen sandals again, I mentally prepared myself for a day of excruciating yet fulfilling bone-chilling temperatures. 5 Mile Rapids, Split Rock, and Little Stinker were the first rapids of the day to baptize me with their frigid splashes. In between rapids, I enjoyed the beauty of the surrounding scenery, unimpaired presence, harmony, and surrendering to the moment. It was mid-morning when it happened. I was in the heaviest gearboat along with the guide and one other passenger. The sun was shining, not a cloud in the sky. I can hear the faint sounds of trickling water. The spray from the flowing river hits the sides of the boat as it reaches closer and closer. The rumbling of the river's current is felt beneath my feet. The rumbling of Big Mallard. Without any warning, and quicker than a speeding bullet, quicker than a freight train, and quicker than you can say Shazam, the boat slams into a rock lodged on the side of the riverbed hidden by the current. A second blow against a giant boulder in the middle of the river causes a series of unimaginable events. As if in slow motion, the boat goes from horizontal to vertical. All 3 passengers are thrown from the boat into the river. The other 2 disappear. I plummet into the depths below, engulfed by water, surrounded by my greatest fear, embraced by death, struggling for the surface, slowly losing breath. Time seemed non-existent. Seconds became hours, pushing harder and harder to reach safety. The frigid waters holding my body in its helm, keeping it close as the current rushes all around me. If I don't get to the surface, I am going to drown. I am going to die. I must choose. Do I want to live, or do I want to die? I choose to live. I wanted to live. Without hesitation, my body accelerated towards the surface. I break through the rushing river current, gasping for life's precious commodity. I am disoriented, but alive. I begin wildly tapping the top of my head to indicate I'm okay, even though I'm far from it. An oar from the boat glides by with the roaring current. I reach toward it desperately, hoping it will bring me security. It begins to descend back into the dark depths of the river, pulling me down with it. My hand slowly relinquishes it back to the river, and it vanishes from view. The sun shines bright against my dampened eyelashes, illuminating a safe place. Sure. My arms and legs begin to work in unison. Faster and faster they push the flowing water behind me, closer and closer to the river's edge. I climb onto the rocks and collapse in exhaustion, out of breath, completely depleted of energy, numbed by the icy submersion. As if in a daydream, I begin to hear voices, multiple deafening voices, screaming, yelling, pleading as if I was on fire. Swim to the boat, they shout. My mind in a fury, debating what I should do. Stay on the safe confines of the river's edge, or risk getting pulled down by the raging current to swim to the damn boat. I knew I couldn't stay where I was. Suddenly, an unreserved strength emerges from my weakened body. Surrounded by the waters that nearly consume me, I steadily make my way to the small inflatable rescue boat. Safe. I'm safe. I'm still on the river, but I'm safe. In a boat. As my thoughts begin to comprehend what had just happened, I glance back out to the river and notice my sunglasses float away with the current. As if in slow motion, one of my rescuers dives into the water to retrieve them, overwhelmed with gratitude that he would risk his life for a pair of sunglasses. Instantaneously, I seize his oar and begin fast and furiously paddling with the rest of the crew to rescue him. My sunglasses survived. I survived. I survived Big Mallard. By the time we reached the side of the river, shock and hypothermia were in full effect. I was shaking uncontrollably. I could feel the chilling water crushing every trace of warmth in my body. Clothes were shed down to the bare necessities, and once again I was hurled back into another boat to get into the smoldering sun on the other side of the river. Sitting on the rocks staring up to the sky, I tried to make sense of what had happened. My mind, my soul, and my body were propelled into chaos. My right ankle took the brunt of it. Removing my green keen sandal revealed a severely swollen ankle. With no ice machines at this hotel, I was relegated to submerging my ankle back into the frigid river waters to decrease the swelling. Detached and paralyzed by fear, I wasn't sure whether to hold in my emotions or break down and let them flow like the river. I sat snacking on gummy bears and sipping water in the sun, watching the others trying to overturn the flipped boat. 90 minutes later, I was back in the boat that had altered my reality. Lunch was quiet at Campbell's Ferry Pack Bridge. I sat alone, allowing the fiery rays of the sun to continue to bring my internal temperature back to semi-normal. Warmth eluded me for the remainder of the day. Before arriving at our final campsite, we stopped at Buckskin Bill's on the 5-mile bar for a sweet treat. Still stunned by the traumatic event, I slowly made my way to the small general store. A chocolate chip cookie ice cream sandwich was just what the doctor ordered. And despite my chilled frame, the sweet treat was scrumdiddlyumptious. 54 miles ended the day at Action Jackson Lungathan Camp. Even with a swollen, bruised ankle, I couldn't get out of that boat fast enough. Tell General Beckman to send a helicopter, I'm done. Mentally, emotionally, physically, and psychologically exhausted. All I wanted was to eat, collapse into my sleeping bag, and attempt to forget what had happened. Chicken soup for the soul was on the menu, although I would have been perfectly happy with cold pizza leftovers or a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. As I drifted off into yet another chilled slumber, I could hear distant voices singing happy birthday. It was someone's birthday, and today I lived to see another one of mine. My journey would continue, but I thought, is this the journey I am meant to have? Is the universe trying to teach me a lesson? If so, what is it? Determining the true meaning would have to wait for tomorrow. After all, tomorrow is another day. Wednesday, September 1st, 2021, 6 a.m., awake and alive. My ankle still swollen, black, blue, and purple. A rainbow of fruit flavors. 54 miles into the Salmon River with 26 remaining. How was I going to make it another 48 hours and 26 miles? With no technical rapids on the itinerary, the day would be filled with relaxing stillness and calm, soothing waters. Silence to persuade my anxious mind to be present. Present for today, present for tomorrow, present for my future. Present seemed to be but a fairy tale. But aren't fairy tales supposed to come true? Jury is still out. The last lunch on the river was on Polybemus Beach. I gingerly maneuvered the shore and found myself off in the distance away from the others. This was the last time I would experience this exact moment. The trickling water rolling over the moss-covered river stones, the softness of the wind keeping me in its embrace, and the sun rays glittering against my skin. Slowly breathing in life's most crucial element, an awareness of gratitude overcame me. Awareness of life. My life. I'm here. Was that the plan all along? Did I need a chilling yet divine awakening? Was this the reason for going out of my comfort zone and into the unknown? An exhaustive sense of relief consumed me as the boat that had no less than 24 hours ago flipped and forced me into the depths of the river of no return, completed its last rapid of the day, T-Bone Creek Rapid. 71 miles in 4 days. Doesn't seem possible. It's almost like a dream, one unlike no other I've ever had. Maxwell Bar was the final campsite of the adventure, and it greeted us with a smoky haze from a distant forest fire. Even with the haze, the camp's wide-open sandy beach made it an ideal spot for the final circle of friends around the campfire. What started out as a mad dash to get all the gear off the boats that first night was as seamless as a dance between Fred and Ginger for the very last time. Setting up my tent while the sun began its descent behind the Ponderosa Pinefilled Mountains, I yearned for a sense of safety. I needed to be safe, and I don't feel safe here. My ugly and wicked anxiety slithered its way back into my mind. Anxiety and utter terror to get back into the boat. Only 9 more miles to go. 9. My mind, body, and soul were shattered and inconsolable. And then without any warning, I let it go. I let it all go. Giant tears charged out of my hazel green eyes like Alice drinking too much from the bottle. I had held my emotions tightly within, too scared to be vulnerable. The release was cleansing and allowed me to be present for the remainder of the evening. Coming together one last time, no longer strangers, but friends. A place by the fire. There was laughter, there were tears. Different reasons for taking this leap, yet in the end it was for the same reason. To find one's true self. to continue life's journey with a new perspective and appreciation for all its blessings. As a symbol of shared connection, gifts from the river were presented. I received a broken rock with a branched crown. The rock may have broken me, but I did not break the rock. No truer words were spoken. As I drifted off to my final slumber listening to the sweet lullaby of nature's boy bands, I realized the source of my strength would come from within. Finding and embracing that strength would be a new journey. But that is another story and shall be told another time. Thursday, September 2nd, 2021. The sun rose in a hazy shade over the ponderosa pines the last and final morning on the river of no return. As we departed the shores of Maxwell Bar, ending the beginning of an adventure, of a transformation, of a reawakening, I said, "So long, farewell, auf Wiedersehen, goodbye," to my former self. T-minus 3 hours and 3 Class 3 rapids remaining. It's the final countdown. Smooth, still waters were bookended by dried meat and Chittim Rapids. And the final rapid, Vinegar. Following the boat flip, I had gripped the tied lines of the boat so tightly my knuckles turned white from my frozen clenched fists. But as the boat glided through dried meat, then Chittim, my grip began to loosen. By the time I was through Vinegar, my hands set themselves free up towards the skies. The only way out is through, and I was through. Wind River Pack Bridge revealed the end and the beginning. Takeout at Carey Creek Boat Ramp, mile 80.9, mission complete. Now a journey of true healing can begin. My healing will come from within. Within the depths of my triumphant soul, I will persevere. I am the champion, my friends. The Carey Creek takeout was just as chaotic as the Corn Creek put-in. Another mad dash to get all the gear off the boats and the boats off the water. A van ride down the Salmon River Road to our final destination, McCall, Idaho. Goodbyes were short. Everyone in a hurry to resume their lives. As much as I wanted this to be over, I realized I didn't want this to end. Re-entering the technological world felt criminal after 5 days immersed in the living world of nature. The warmth of the steaming shower cascading down my bare skin in the confines of my hotel bathroom brought me back to reality. And the loo was definitely a nice change from the groover. The silence as I crawled into bed that night was deafening. No more battle of nature's boy bands. No more trickling waters. Just silence. No more sand cemented in between my toes or bundled up in 10 layers of fleece to stay warm. No more of this adventure. Friday, September 3rd, 2021. Day 6, and it's time. Time to go home. Time to return to my reality. Only an hour stood between my adventure and my reality, returning with humility, gratitude, and trust, humbled and grateful for the blessing of life, trusting the purpose for this experience. As I watched the plane slowly descend within the walls of the Evergreen State, I knew the wellness whitewater retreat I had gone out of my comfort zone for was at its end. Walking back into the here and now, this is where my healing begins. This is where I get back into the limo, and instead of Cyndi Lauper blaring, I hear Louis Armstrong's What a Wonderful World playing softly in my head. The adventure may have ended, but the journey has just begun. I will find my way through life's obstacles and redefine who I am. Because I am here. Because I am humble. Because I am grateful. Because I am trusting. Because I am resilient. Because I am confident. Because I am worthy. Because I am loved. Because I am